Once, in a small, quiet town surrounded by hills and fields, there lived a young soul who always tried to fit in. From a very early age, the world around them whispered, "Do this, wear that, speak like this, laugh like them." Every day was a performance, smiling when they didn't feel like it, agreeing even when they had questions, wearing things that didn't feel right, just to avoid standing out. At school, they watched others win praise, not for their honesty, but for how well they could copy trends. At home, they heard adults talk about what was acceptable and normal, as if there was only one way to live. Slowly, the young soul began to lose the spark that made them unique. They stopped asking big questions. They laughed only when others laughed. They dressed not for comfort, but for approval. They became a mirror, reflecting everyone else, but never showing their own true face. One day, while walking alone after a long, tiring week, they wandered off the usual path and found themselves at the edge of a forest. There, hidden among tall trees, was an old wooden cottage that looked forgotten by time. Curiosity pulled them closer. Something about that place felt strangely comforting, like it wasn't asking for anything in return. Inside the cottage was a single room, bare except for one object, a tall, dusty mirror. It was cracked around the edges, but still whole. As the young soul stood before it, something strange happened. The mirror didn't just reflect the person standing there, it began to shift, revealing layers beneath the surface. At first, the mirror showed how they appeared to the world, smiling, polished, always agreeable. But then the image flickered, the smile faded, the clothes changed, the posture relaxed. And for the first time, the young soul saw a different version of themselves, quietly strong, curious, a little messy, wonderfully unique. It was like meeting someone they had forgotten. Suddenly, the mirror spoke, not in words, but in feelings. It asked a silent question. "Why are you hiding this?" The young soul stepped back. They thought about the reasons: fear of being judged, fear of being laughed at, fear of being alone. But then the mirror shifted again, this time showing all the moments they had stayed silent when they wanted to speak, smiled when they wanted to cry, followed when they longed to lead. It didn't look like safety anymore. It looked like a cage. The mirror now showed something else, a path, a winding, uncertain trail filled with choices, challenges, and unknowns. But it was theirs. It wasn't borrowed. It wasn't designed to please anyone. It was real. In that moment, something inside the young soul changed, not in a loud, dramatic way, but like the slow cracking of ice before spring arrives. They realized that no matter how well they blended in, they would never feel at peace if they kept denying who they truly were. When they stepped out of the cottage, the world looked the same, but they didn't. The next day, they did one small thing differently. Nothing big, just wore something they liked, even though it didn't match the trend. Nobody said anything, but for the first time in a long while, they felt like themselves. Then they voiced an opinion in class. It wasn't popular, but it was honest. Some disagreed, but others listened, and that felt better than being ignored while agreeing silently. Over time, the young soul made more choices that reflected who they were, not who others expected them to be. And with each choice, their inner world grew lighter. There were still moments of doubt, times when the crowd's noise got loud again, trying to drown out their own voice. But they would remember the mirror, the silent question, and the feeling of seeing themselves clearly. One evening, while sitting alone under a sky filled with stars, a quiet realization came. Being yourself isn't about being loud, different, or rebellious. It's about being honest. It's about honoring what makes you you, even if others don't always understand it. Not everyone will clap for you when you choose your own path, but claps don't build confidence. Courage does. and courage grows each time you choose to live a little more like you. Eventually, people began to notice, not because of how well this soul fit in, but because of how comfortably they stood out. They had something rare, authenticity, and those who were tired of pretending started to feel braver just by being around someone real. The young soul learned that the world doesn't need more copies. It needs more truth. It needs more people who choose to be themselves, even if it means walking alone for a while. Because in the end, you're not remembered for how well you imitated others. You're remembered for how bravely you became you. The takeaway: you weren't born to blend in like wallpaper. You were born to be seen, to be felt, to make an impact. Don't waste your life wearing masks just to make others comfortable. The world may try to shape you, but you have the power to shape your own identity. Don't just exist in someone else's idea of you. You are not a reflection of the crowd. You are a reflection of your own soul.